Namaskaram to all. I, Dr. Preetimai Sahu, Reader Kachikista, Sri Babu Singh Jai Singh Ayurveda Medical College, want to welcome you all in the celebration of 7th World Ayurveda Day today. My topic is role of Dinacharya in endocrine disorders. As we know, Dinacharya is described in Ayurveda texts in a very descriptive manner, and it is very important to follow the rules of Dinacharya which is described in Ayurveda text. So let's start directly because time is very short. So first point which is given is Brahma Muhurta Uttishtet. Brahma Muhurta is the last yama of night when nascent oxygen in the atmosphere readily mixes up with hemoglobin to form oxyhemoglobin, which nourishes the remote tissues rapidly. As this time is called Panchamrit Bela, we get the benefits of purified Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jal and Prithvi. Moreover, our circadian cycle and its rhythm is maintained properly, which helps in the healthy secretion of our hormones. Exposure to bright light in early morning causes the release of serotonin, which keeps the person active and alert. Hormones are chemical messengers. We all know that secreted by special glands known as endocrine glands, which control many physiological functions as well as psychological health. They are also quite important in maintaining homeostasis in the body. So we know all the endocrine glands, hypothalamus, pituitary, thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, thymus gland, pancreas, adrenal gland, testes and ovaries, and we all know the functions of all the glands and the secretions which are produced by these glands. A comprehensive bioinformatics study performed in mice led to the identification of 41 circadian genes that oscillated in a circadian way in several mouse tissues with a considerable consistency of circadian phases in the different tissues. Interestingly, comparisons between mouse, rat, rhesus, macaque, and man revealed that the phase of key circadian genes presented a delay in the other species if compared to mice, like 4 to 5 hours in rats, 8 to 12 hours in macaques and humans. The actual anatomical site of the clock was subsequently associated in rats to the suprachiasmatic nucleus. The neural connection linking the eye to the suprachiasmatic nucleus was also elucidated in rats and termed the retinohypothalamic tract. In mammals, the overall process commences after the light is detected by both classical photoreceptors and by the photoreceptor melanopsin, which is located in the retinal ganglion cells that form the retinohypothalamic tract and project to the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Several hormones were shown to have daily oscillations, and among these, the best characterized are melatonin, cortisol, gonadal steroids, prolactin, thyroid hormone, and growth hormone. The so-called nutrient-sensitive hormones, namely insulin, leptin, ghrelin, and adiponectin, also oscillate on a circadian basis, and their release is, at least in a part, regulated by environmental stimuli such as feeding time and light-dark cycles. In both nocturnal and diurnal animals, melatonin produces peaks in the middle of the night between 12 to 3 am, inducing activity in the nocturnal and rest or sleep in the diurnal animals. Melatonin was shown to affect several physiological functions such as blood pressure regulation, immune system modulation, and free radical scavenging. In addition to its well-known role as circadian clock pacer, melatonin was also suggested to positively affect mood disorders as well as cardiovascular, gastrointestinal, and bone physiology. Also, melatonin was addressed in a playing role as an oncostatic molecule. The neurotransmitter acetylcholine was one of the first neurotransmitters suggested to be involved in circadian rhythmicity, and actually it shows a circadian pattern of release which is high during the active phase. The cholinergic system in mammals show a marked circadian activity. Acetylcholine is released during wakefulness and motor activity, whereas a reduced release is observed during sleep. The circadian activity of the suprachiasmatic nucleus directly influences the rhythmic secretion of several other hormones. Arginine vasopressin or simply vasopressin is produced in paraventricular and supraoptic nuclei of hypothalamus and transported to the posterior pituitary where it is released in the systemic circulation, reducing water elimination from kidneys to prevent dehydration. The suprachiasmatic nucleus coordinates also the periodic release of glucocorticoids from the adrenal cortex, which result in the maximal production in the early morning for diurnal animals and in early evening for nocturnal animals. Among all glucocorticoid hormones, cortisol is one of the best characterized from a circadian point of view. In humans, cortisol production usually increases during night and shows a peak of secretion in the morning, around 7 to 8 am. In this way, setting the endocrine balance for the stress associated with waking. Jet lag and sleep desynchronization were shown to increase cortisol levels in humans, and increased cortisol was associated with several pathologies such as cardiometabolic diseases, sleep and mood disorders, and tumors. Glucocorticoids and cortisol can modulate the expression of clock control genes in the liver, kidney, and adipose tissue. Insulin and ghrelin represent two key factors in metabolic regulation, and now several circadian factors are recognized to regulate their secretion and activity. In humans, insulin secretion is maximum at 5 pm and minimum at about 4 am, thus promoting nutrient storage in active phase. The oxyntic cells of the stomach secrete ghrelin before feeding time independent from light according to their own circadian clock. The main action of ghrelin is appetite stimulation. Adiponectin, also called adipokine, secreted by adipose tissue has its peak of production between 12 to 2 pm. Adiponectin is known as an anti-inflammatory and insulin sensitizer molecule. Its level was inversely correlated with obesity, and hepatic glucose level increases. Leptin is secreted by the white adipose tissue after the hepatic glucose level increases, and acting at the level of appetite centers in the hypothalamus, it conveys signals of satiety, preventing overfeeding. Studies show that long-term light-dark shifts resulted in reduced body temperature, increased adiposity, altered immune response, and tumor development. In humans, induced sleep-wake misalignment causes an unscheduled secretion of insulin, leptin, and norepinephrine. Circadian misalignment induced by sleep deprivation increases markers of insulin resistance and inflammation. Our biological clock is deeply interconnected with our endocrine homeostasis, and alteration of our hormonal balance can result in pathological consequences. A scheduled lifestyle, light therapy, and chronotherapy, which is restoring sleep-wake pattern, may result useful in such a perspective. Apart from benefits of sleeping and waking, many other procedures are described which are to be followed for healthy living. Like after Brahmamurta Uttishtet, Ushna Jalapana is described. This stimulates the activity of gastrointestinal and urinary system, preventing renal stone, hemorrhoids, and constipation. Hence, 1 to 2 glasses of warm water is advised to take before sunrise. Then, Malmutra Visarjana is described on the onset of urge and at proper time clears the rectum, enhances Jఠragni and digestive power, and prevents constipation. This also helps in the healthy functioning of adrenal glands. Then Achamana and Dantadhavana are described. It helps to prevent eye diseases, it stimulates taste perception and increases salivation, which contains lysozyme and secretory immunoglobulin A, which have antimicrobial properties. Salivary amylase protects the teeth from decay. Followed by Jiva Nirlekhana, it initiates the proper functioning of liver, kidney, bladder, stomach and intestine. Then Sneha Gandusha Dharana is described, which improves the circulation of oral cavity and provides massaging effect over the oral mucosa. This also initiates the marmas of neck and keeps the thyroid gland healthy. Then Anjana is described. Eyes become beautiful, capable of seeing even minute objects, prevents dry eye and computer vision syndrome. As we know, our eyes perceive light for the proper maintenance of circadian rhythm, so healthy eyes are utmost necessary for a healthy living. Then Nasya is described, stimulates Shringatak Marma as described, Nasahi Sirasodwara. It triggers the nerve endings and stimulates the CNS and of course maintains a healthy hypothalamo-endocrine axis. Then Dhumapana is described, which stimulates the respiratory center present in brainstem. It triggers the normal physiological function of respiratory system and also initiates the neurotransmitter release. It is followed by Vyayama. It increases the carbohydrate metabolism and causes lipolysis of accumulated adipose tissue, causing abolishment of extra fat. It enhances the functioning of thyroid hormones and also pancreatic hormones. It increases oxygen supply to remote tissues. The perspiration takes out the accumulated toxins from the body. So Vyayama is also very helpful, and everyone should do Vyayama at least for 30 minutes in a day. Then Chankramana is described. It clears the shrotas of the body and increases the perceptive power of organs. It stimulates the murmurs of foot, especially Talahridaya murmur, which is very helpful in keeping the heart healthy. Abhyanga is described, which enhances blood circulation and transport the potency of drugs to desired part. Especially Siroabhyanga and Padabhyanga is emphasized for the stimulation of shiromurmas and enhance the activity of hypothalamus and pituitary glands. Abhyanga triggers the release of endorphins, which show analgesic effect on the body. It is followed by Snana. Of course, Snana is very important. It enhances and centralizes the Jatharagni, which is the chief regulator of all the other Agnis, including Dhatvagni and Bhutagni. This also enhances the cellular metabolism mediated by hormones and enzymes. It improves enthusiasm, strength, appetite, and removes sweat and other impurities from the body. Then Sandhya Upasana and Mangal Kritya are advised, which relieve stress and maintain the functioning of stress hormones. Bhojan or intake of proper diet is also described in Dinacharya, in which Satmya Ahar should be taken with pleasant mind because food is only source of nutrients for our body. Tambula Sevana is described, which stimulates the taste buds and increases salivation. Then at last, Ratricharya Nidra is described. Nidra or sleep is very essential for growth, strength and longevity of life. Late night sleeping causes the elevation of cortisol, which in turn is responsible for rise in BP and a risk factor for obesity and diabetes. Sleeping in time maintains the release of melatonin hormone, and having a good sound sleep is very necessary for proper rest of brain, as all the centers of regulation of body activities is situated in brain only. This Ayurvedic rhythm or daily regimen which is mentioned in Dinacharya is very important for us because it provides us with more energy, a deeper sense of connectivity, a strong immunity system and balanced hormonal circulations. Our body promotes health and longevity if we follow 24-hour circadian rhythm. Hence, following Dinacharya is very important in maintaining endocrine health and preventing endocrine disorders. Thank you. Namaskar to all.